Ahoy Rovers! Well, this video is all about installing the longitudinals which will form the matrix for what will be the flush deck aft of the cabin. My name's Alan Mulholland, and this is the story of how I built the Wave Rover 650. 3 years ago, I refitted a 40-year-old Contessa 26 and took her on an amazing 7,800 nautical mile ocean voyage. We crossed the Atlantic twice, but a knockdown on the second crossing and COVID-19 put an end to my solo circumnavigation. So now, I'm building a new boat, smaller, lighter, but more suited for a solo circumnavigation. The Wave Rover 650. Well, Rovers, so this episode is all about the longitudinals. Now, what are the longitudinals? Well, they're another structural member, but unlike the ring frames, which run athwart ships, the longitudinals run perpendicular to those, and their main function is to keep the boat rigid from forces that would like to twist the boat, twist the hull. So, I mean, that's one of the functions in this design. They have other functions. It's also, they will keep these ring frames in line, and also they will provide support, like a matrix of support for the after deck. So like everything on a small boat, a well-designed small boat, all the components have to have many functions working together to make it seaworthy or strong enough to be out on the open ocean. Anyway, a lot to do. Time to crack on. So before I can put these longitudinals in, I need to get a little bit of prep work done, and that's going to be in the form of getting the stringer so that the bevel on the stringer is the same as the bevel of what the deck camber will be. And so I've used my, you would have seen me make this, well, I guess this template of the deck camber a few videos ago, and as you can see, it's actually not bad, but my pencil line right there, if you can just make it out, by the time I take this stringer down to that pencil line, this camber will be just right. So I've already removed about, a good 1/8 of an inch with the power plane, but this last little bit I just want to do with the hand plane, and I'll see if I can do that while holding the camera. So it takes a certain amount of skill to use a block plane, but to hold the camera actually takes more. So let me see. And it may not be obvious, but what I'm trying to do is leave the plywood untouched and just bring this edge down to that edge of the ply, because that's what our template was telling us. Okay, just empty that out. Okay, I'll just make the last pass or two without the camera because I need the extra support of my hand. Well, as you can see, the glue joint, it's looking pretty good, or the space there. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're using epoxy with fillers, and we want to have a little gap in there so we know that we're actually getting good contact. And that's pretty good all the way along. So we'll end up with a pretty fair deck line. Now, onto the transom. We had glued that up in a previous video. Now it's time to take it back down to its lines. So using the same procedure that I've been using all along, I've used a little bit of scrap door skin and scrap plywood and a glue gun to make up this pattern. And this pattern is going to be one of the biggest interior components of the Wave Rover 650. So it's the longitudinal on the port side, and there'll be two of these, one here and another one right here. So now that it's fitted and it's symmetrical, they're both the same, I can now take this out and lay it on a sheet of ply and cut it out. So if you're not sure how I go about making these, you can check out the video link in the top right hand corner. Well, the template, as unwieldy as it seems, worked out great, and I produced these two longitudinal components right here. Now, I've also cut these inspection hatches in them, and they're for the quarters, so that I'll be able to access things like tightening up the stanchions and the cleats, little things that you've got to be thinking about early on in the stage. Too many small boats and large boats alike have, you know, little nuts and bolts that you need to tighten, but no access to them, or very poor access. So this ought to give me great access where I need it. It'll all make sense when I get these installed, but I'm going to leave these here for about a day or so because I have some other items I need to take care of while I have good access inside the boat. Let's go take a look. So once these longitudinals get put in all along here, and also there will be more that'll go in front of the bunk, it'll block my access. So while I still have really good access, especially back here where that tall longitudinal is, I'm going to put these little cleats on the edge of these bulkheads. And what I'm using are this is just regular construction wood, you know, just a 1x4. I've ripped it down to 2.5 inches. I've put a round over on it, and I've just quickly hit it with a piece of sandpaper, and that'll be going like this. So they'll get glued onto here, and they'll also get a few screws holding them in, and they will be the support mechanism, if you will, for the bunk top, because glue will get put on this surface and then the bunk will get glued onto that, because there will be, like I said, a front on this. So you've got to be thinking a few steps ahead at this stage. I'll be using this glue right here, Titebond 3, and believe it or not, Titebond 3 in this size, this is 4 liters, this was the only container in the entire province of Prince Edward Island. I had to go all the way to Charlottetown to pick that up, and it was the very last one. Anyway, it's a terrific glue. It's probably very much overkill for what I need because, I mean, this area is not going to be immersed in water. It is waterproof, and because it'll be held in place with screws, it'll be a terrific glue. And whenever possible, I will use this glue over epoxy because it's so much easier to work with. The temperatures don't have to be as high, and the cleanup is easy. It's fast acting. It's so much better in many ways, but it's not a replacement for epoxy. Anyway, I've got a fair amount to do. I've got to get the temperature up. We still need a temperature of about, I think, 5 degrees for this to work. Let me just check it here. 45 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll have to look that up, but I'm pretty sure that's less than 10 degrees Celsius. All right, time to crack on. Okay, so we need about 7 to 8 degrees Celsius for this glue to work, and we have that. And we'll just let that set up overnight, and then we'll move on to the next step tomorrow. I have to run out and get a piece of lumber anyway. It'll get notched into this area, and it'll run right along the entire length, and that'll be a gluing surface for the longitudinals. All right, that did not take long at all. Okay, so we need to make some little cuts all along here so that we can get a stringer notched into these. Okay, so what we've done is we've notched these bulkheads and frames, and we've placed in our stringer, and it fits nicely. And I've also placed just a scrap piece of 1x4 on top, and that's just here temporarily just to hold these exactly at the spacing, because they're locked in at the hull and they're locked in down here, but now they're locked in this space. This is a dry fit. Once we get the screws in here, we'll take everything off and we'll put glue on, which will be coming right up. Now the reason I'm putting this countersink in is because we'll be putting a piece of plywood over top of here, the longitudinal, so we don't want this screw to be sticking out. Stainless steel screws, number 10s, 1.25 inches. There we go. We're nice and flush on the top. We're flush on the face. Everything's looking good. Just one more to go. Okay, so now we're done. I can go ahead and undo all these screws. I know everything fits. I'll have them all standing by. I'll mix up a little bit of thickened epoxy. I'll wet this surface out. I'll put the thickened epoxy in, and then we'll let this set up. Okay, so now is the time to put this in. We've test fitted everything. We've got it wetted out. We've got the glue set. So let's see if we can do this. Okay, we're right on our line. Very good. Now I've got some 3/4 inch number, 3/4 inch by number 10 screws, Robertson, stainless steel. Nice. Okay. Great, we have a little bit of glue squeeze out all along. That's great. We'll come back and clean that up after we've got everything tacked in place. So now it's just a matter of doing our little tack welds using a thickened epoxy with some filler, and I'll put those in every few inches. Okay, looking good. I think we can call that done. Just let it cook for the night, and yeah, I'll just cover it over and get the heaters on. Well, it's an honor to add 3 new names to our benefactors bulkhead. Damon Fisher, Andreas Enemoser, and Matthew Fike. Now, if you've been keeping track, you'll know there still are 37 positions open on the benefactors bulkhead. So what is a benefactor? Well, these folks have made a contribution of $100 US or more to the project, and their names will be affixed to a bulkhead inside Wave Rover and will be traveling with me on our circumnavigation. Now, these donations truly are much appreciated. Well, phase 1 of the longitudinal bulkheads is now complete. It was a big step forward, and you really got a lot for your effort, in the sense that, you can see a substantial amount of change. But there's still a lot to do. But first, how long did it take to get this done? Well, it took me 3 days, but one of those days the temperature was minus 18 Celsius, so I only got about 2 hours work done before I couldn't feel my fingertips anymore. So in reality, probably 2 long days would get you through to getting the stringer in for the bunks and getting the longitudinals in and tacked in place and shaped. But there's a lot more to go before I can start decking in the after deck. I still have to reinforce the quarters. They're like miniature crash bulkheads, if you will. And also I need to create deck beams and put the camber on those. And then there are deck supports that run longitudinally. And a lot of that depends on putting the bunk top on, because I have to build bulkheads off of that. There's a lot to do, and it's actually, for such a small boat, it's a fairly complex engineering plan, but that's what keeps it light and strong. So until next time, thanks for watching. Well, Mr. Speckles and I would like to welcome on board 2 new patrons, Kay Engelhart and Christian Mirrell. Well, the Wave Rover patrons, with their pledges of support, really do make the creation of these videos possible. Now, if you'd like to know more about Wave Rover's patron page and benefactors bulkhead, I have links to both those pages in the video description. Now, another way to help Wave Rover, and it doesn't cost you a dime, is by sharing our content on your social media. So now, as always, Rovers, thanks for watching. Give us one more. Brilliant.